Bad wheelie here. It's springtime in South Dakota, and we're here in Custer State Park to head out on the famous wildlife loop. The wildlife loop is about 18 miles long. Typically can take anywhere from an hour to 2 hours to travel. But today, as you can see, the park is very quiet, and we'll probably do the wildlife loop a lot more quickly. So we were a little bit apprehensive at first about getting on the wildlife loop. A little bit concerned that a bison might identify our bike as an enemy and target it for attack. But we had the chance to stop by the ranger station and talk to a couple of rangers. And they told us that they actually encourage motorcycles to take the loop, that there's really no threat from the bison as long as you don't get too close to them. And they're really not attracted to motorcycles. In fact, they're intimidated by them, so they generally stay away. So that was good news. The other thing we found out was that they allow drones in Custer State Park, and they said you can fly over the buffalo so long as you don't get close enough to them to annoy them or distract them. So we were happy about that. You can see there's a lot of tours you can take. People, take these extended jeeps around the park to see things. There's a lot to see in the park. There's the bison, of course, pronghorn, prairie dogs, mountain lion, elk, a lot of things. We saw some pronghorn, and we didn't see much else other than the bison. So we stopped here at this large open space where a lot of people stop to view bison. And while we didn't have our drone with us at this time, we came through later with our camper. And when we did that, we stopped and caught this drone footage. So you often hear, where the buffalo roam. And I find it interesting that despite that, there really are no buffalo in the Americas, except in zoos, of course. Buffalo are native to Africa and Asia, not to the Americas. What we have here are bison. So these are plains bison, really the most common species of bison. Bison is a species. There are two subspecies, the plains bison and then the woodland bison. Woodland bison are generally found much farther north. They have longer, more raggedy hair, and these are the plains bison that you see throughout North America. Typically, largest herd, of course, being in Yellowstone, where I think they have about 3,000. The herd here in South Dakota at the Custer State Park is about, I think, 1,400 bison. So we didn't stop that much on our ride, and I would recommend if you take the loop that you make a few stops along the way. There's a lot to see. We saw a lot more when we came through on our camper, with our camper, because it was a lot more crowded, so we had to stop. But there were a lot of things that we had missed. There's a lot of little prairie dog cities that you can see, the feral prairie dogs popping in and out of the holes. And so we saw a lot more wildlife when we came through in our camper, just because we were going slower. So after we traveled the 18-mile wildlife loop, we turned onto State Highway 87, which turns into the famous Needles Highway. And like the Iron Mountain Road, which I've done another video on, these roads were constructed in the early 1920s, by Peter Norbeck, the governor at that time. And he had a real big vision for this area, having tourism, and so he created these scenic byways that include the Needles Highway, that include the Iron Mountain Road. So we exited the wildlife loop and we're heading north, and we'll enter the Needles Highway very, very quickly here. You don't need to turn off this road. This road will literally turn into it. We were fortunate this time of May to have such really mild weather. So the temperatures were in the 60s. It was really pretty nice. Sky was blue, clear. We really didn't have much rain this week that we were here, and not today at all. So you saw that yellow sign that we passed. It really gives you a stern warning about not taking large vehicles on this road, and you'll see why. The road almost immediately starts to ascend, and there's a lot of wonderful turns, and you can really enjoy this road. As you ascend, the rock formations start to change, the geology starts to change. You know, when you see the rock formations from the highways below, you really don't appreciate them until you really get on this road and really into them. And you literally get into them. These tunnels are very, very narrow, and I don't understand how some folks are traveling on the road with some large trucks, dualies. I'm going to guess that they just fit through, but it's got to be a tight squeeze. I'd be nervous about it. Here we're coming up on a bright orange cross-track. We see so many of these, just like the one my wife drives. I found throughout South Dakota, people are particularly courteous, but on roads like this, they definitely recognize that motorcycles are more nimble than they are and generally want to go faster than they're able or willing to go. So they're very nice about getting over and letting you pass. So here's an example of a dually that we're passing and how it's going to get through that tunnel that we went through earlier. I have no idea. It's going to be a tight squeeze. So now the ascent becomes a little bit less gradual, and you can see the mountains up in the distance, and as I said, you really don't appreciate those till you're right on top of them. So the Needles Highway is about 14 miles long. It takes about an hour to travel through them. As you can see here, the namesake of this road really starts to earn its reputation for these enormous structures towering into the air. You know, ample parking along the way. We didn't stop this time through, but there are some really beautiful views. Some great opportunities for photography, as well as some good hiking too as well. And I don't know if you could really see it here, but there really is a nice, healthy climb as we further ascend to the top of this ridgeline here. Rock formation's just fantastic. You can really appreciate the effort that must have gone into making this road. Probably wanted to do as little damage to the rock formations as possible, but obviously had to do some serious excavating to get through here. So this really is kind of the peak of the road. And this is where it really puts meaning to the term threading the needle. I wouldn't want to come through here when it is too cold. I can definitely envision things getting a little icy. Although I understand the road isn't generally opened until after April 1st. The condensation inside that tunnel too really brings in dust and mud, and it can be pretty slick. Now, we didn't stop here, but I would definitely have stopped there if I was doing it again and walk around a little bit, get some pictures, maybe do a little hiking. So after that second tunnel, you're really starting to descend the mountain area. And again, it continues to be a beautiful, beautiful ride. As I mentioned, we had really just a wonderful day. I don't mind a few clouds in the sky. It was a pretty blue sky for the most part. Visibility was excellent. And of course, the scenery is fantastic. Here we just pulled over quickly to take a look at Sylvan Lake. This image really doesn't do it justice. It's actually a fairly good-sized lake. A lot of nice activities, and again, there's some neat hiking in the area. We continue on Highway 87. Continue on the Needles Highway as we head back toward Hill City. Actually, after we had made that turn, we thought we were off the Needles Highway, but it really does continue until you really descend the mountain area here. And there continue to be some really fun riding, some nice switchbacks, and more tunnels. That was probably the biggest of the tunnels, but I still would be very hesitant to take anything large through there. So we're back in Hill City, and we're arriving back at our base station here at the Hill City KOA, right down the road from Mount Rushmore. Great day riding. Had some wonderful views and just a great all-round time. Can't wait to get back. Bad Wheelie out.